Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. Today, Rich and I are going to discuss Dan Campbell taking over the play calling duties. Rich's just wild dislike of dice games, which has just really broken my spirit, and preview the most interesting games of Week 11. So make sure you stick around. Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. Rich and I are here to get you ready for Week 11 of the fantasy football season. Before we do that, I do want to let you know about a really exciting week that we have here at Sharp Football Analysis at the website. Sharp Football Free Week is here every week. Every season we pick 1 week. We open up the entire site for free. We call it our free week. It's a very clever name, obviously, for what we're doing here. But you can get all of our betting recommendations, all of our fantasy football content. That means everything that Rich does this week. You can get all of that completely free over at Sharp Football Analysis. So make sure, this is a great opportunity. It's all free. You can get access to the worksheets, see what we talk about here every week, get access to the props that Rich and I, contribute a lot. And along with, Warren Sharp, obviously, and Curtis Hirsch and all of the guys there, you get his DFS picks. There's so much available, all part of free week. Make sure you head over to sharp.football and check that out and take advantage of this offer. But let's get to it. Let's get to the biggest news of the week, which was yesterday, Rich telling me that he doesn't like games that have a dice mechanic, which means that he doesn't like Dungeons and Dragons. He claims to like Baldur's Gate. I'm pressing X for doubt on that one. Claims he hates Settlers.
Settlers
doesn't like
Risk. Not it.
It's just, I thought you were a nerd. I thought you liked good stuff. And then this is just, it's really broken my worldview of you. Honestly, it's broken my worldview of you.
Listen, if dice rolling is a core mechanic of your game, that's faulty process. I would argue that the D&D, which I do like to play, is the actual game component of D&D is not the fun part of it. It's the creativity and the going haywire and hang out with your friends. So that's the allure of D&D. We also we host a game night on Friday nights, and we've been playing a game adjacent to D&D. Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, which doesn't have any, it removes the dice rolling of it. So it's it's not my favorite aspect of gaming, but there are games that do involve it that I like around it, other than the actual dice rolling aspect. But you can do everything right perfectly. You're playing the game optimally, and it's just the dice roll is what bones you. I used to travel. That's not right. I used to travel and play a game called HeroClix, tabletop game. I used to travel and play that. It's comic book characters. Is made by Topps. I think they sold it at one point, but I sold my collection when I saw where it was headed. But I used to travel around and play that, and that had dice rolling too. It's a core mechanic, and I loved the game and stuff. But you would just be in a big tournament or something, and you're just oh, cool, crit miss. Yep, awesome.
Yeah, that's
game's
awesome.
over.
Hold on.
That's not awesome.
Yeah, it's great. That's exactly what I want. I love chaos. I live for chaos. First of all, I have to compliment producer Adam, who his topic bar for this conversation that he didn't know that we were going to have at the top was Rich : quotes dice aren't nice, which that's just great work, Adam.
It is.
I really appreciate that. It made me laugh. But yeah,
great episode of Community though.
Well, is it back on the streaming services? I don't know. Did they bring it back? There was some issues there with the Drow character, but that's neither here nor there. Now I have to ask, do you like craps? Will you play craps?
Yeah, but craps is that's different because it's an environment game.
Okay,
you're not. Do you know what I mean? In the casino, the craps table is the hypest place you could be.
Yeah, craps table is amazing. And I have been to recent casinos that have the electronic craps table, so you're not having to deal with chips and stuff. So you could put the bet in electronically, but you're still rolling the dice. And that's peak, because I've never really trusted the trouble, the trouble dice version of craps, where it's just the one dice in the middle and it pops it up. I've never really trusted that. I always felt there was a way for the casino to kind of cheat you a little bit on those. So I like the electronic. I still get to make my electronic bets. I don't have to worry about making sure I'm betting in intervals of what is an 8 or whatever it is. I can make whatever bets I want, and you still get to roll the dice. So that's a peak gambling improvement. I also like that I have really strong feelings about that, because that means that I probably should call the hotline, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move on and start talking about this week. And one of the things I like from your worksheet preview, like the intro article that you do, where we keep all of like, you can go to the intro article and you will, get a link to every single one of the worksheet previews for the week. But in it, you also have like just kind of like I always think of it like a State of the Union address, like what's happening, what's interesting going on here. And this week's one was interesting because you talked about just the offensive futility that we had in week 10, that we had like a much better running games, like the running games did well, but overall it was just a bad offensive week. And I feel like that's happened so much. And then there was a line in there at the end of it, which was just like, it was basically like, I don't know, man, like we're trying to survive. Let's get to the end of the season. And it really has felt like that. I've been open with, I'm having a really bad year in best ball. It's my worst year I think I've ever remember. It's not going well. Obviously the Jonathan Taylor teams are going good. And luckily enough, I got enough of Jonathan Taylor there. But other than that, and JSN, but other than that, it's not going well. Like, it's just been like one of those years where in redraft, I've been able to make it, and I'm doing pretty well in redraft because I can pick players up. But a lot of the stuff we thought before the season just isn't working out, and it is like a lot of just survive and advance going on.
Yeah, the endure and survive.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because hey, no matter what, even if there's 3 touchdowns scored in an NFL week, like we're still, someone out here is playing fantasy football and they matter to someone.
Yeah.
So we're just making the best we can. We're doing the best we can with what we have. It was the running games are still like, we're still in like that kind of meta where like the running games have still been advantageous and these high scoring running backs are still kind of being anchors right now. And like that's where like all the points were last week. We had the best rushing week of the season, and even outside of Jonathan Taylor and Devin Achane, who went nuts, but offenses had their most rushing yards per game last week, the highest rate of explosive runs, highest rate of runs go for a first down, a touchdown. And because of that, we had the lowest drop back rate in a week this season last week, the lowest rate of yards gained to come from passing. And it really wasn't just because the running games were good. I mean, we also had our lowest completion rate in a week this season, our third highest sack rate, like the lowest rate of passes since week 3 to go for a first down or touchdown. Offenses scored on 35% of their drives. That was their lowest rate in a week this season. And the fewest points per drive in a week this season. So it wasn't like just because teams were running good, it was still good for offenses. It wasn't. And then we had more injuries. Obviously we lost Jackson Dart. We did get Jameis Winston, which I guess, like, I don't know, was a trade-off, like the big Jameis contingency. I know Jameis is like kind of fun and he's like become like this entity, but he's not very good at football is the problem. So
Hold
it's
on.
like,
Hold on. I'm going to push back on that. He might be elite at football. It just so happens. It just so happens that he creates elite football environments because of his tendency to turn the ball over, which to me makes him the greatest quarterback that's ever lived. And so I love Jameis Winston. And I'm very interested in the game environment this week that he is able to create. But yes, will it be successful for the Giants offense without possibly Darius Slayton? I don't know. I don't know so much about that one. I don't know about that one, but I will not take Jameis slander on this podcast.
I know. So, I was on a DFS show last night and then people were like, what about Jameis? And it's like, he can't crack the pool this week. He can't come to the party. Well, it was like us in DC. We can't go to the pool. We can't go to the pool, man.
That's a fun story. But the overall point, and I do think it's interesting to talk about like the Jameis part of it. And I had this issue when I was doing the waiver column, and you've brought it up as well. There are so many good quarterback options this week. Like, there are just a lot of quarterback options that are,
which hopefully
available.
Means it's a good week.
Yeah, exactly. Which means that it is a good week. Like, I do think it's going to be an interesting week because you can talk yourself into a lot. Like, just I'm thinking about guys like, obviously Jacoby Brissett is still out there in a lot of leagues, and he's been a quarterback 4 weeks in a row now. He's in a good matchup. Joe Flacco, we expect him to throw 45 times every time he goes out there, and I still don't think the Steelers defense is any good. If they can push Aaron Rodgers, we know how effective Aaron Rodgers can be, and he actually threw down the field. We'll talk about that game later, but he actually threw down the field against the Bengals because the Bengals defense is is so bad. Like even Geno Smith, you can talk yourself into, assuming he plays and is healthy. We don't know what that's going to look like. He got banged up obviously last week, but he's had longer to recover. And so like there's so many guys you could talk yourself into that you don't really have to talk yourself into Jameis Winston. More of just saying, I don't know, maybe this game environment's going to be more fun for us, and maybe I can talk myself into Luke.
But Dart was fun. Like it's a negative, right? Like he's not even more fun than Dart.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's better than Russell Wilson starting.
Yes,
like if those
correct.
are our options.
And I wrote it before it was even declared, because I wrote that game up on early before it was declared, and I was like, we're probably drawing pretty live for them to start Jameis.
Yeah.
And it turned out that they did the right thing.
Yeah, and it's also in part of that game, now that they've moved to Jameis, you have to ask yourself questions about what does the backfield look like, right? Like, because we know that Devin Singletary is a Dayball guy. And so now that Dayball is gone, what does that look like? What changes are they going to really be making here? Which I do think is interesting to think about. But we're not going to talk about that game because it's probably not going to be actually that exciting. But Jameis is going to do his best. We know that. But let's move on and talk about agree or disagree. Before we do that, though, I do want to bring in Warren Sharp to talk about our Sharp Football PrizePicks lineup for Week 11.
It's time for us to build this week's PrizePicks lineup and turn $100 into $600. PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports with their easy-to-use app. And now you can play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups when you use code Warren after you download their app. All right, it's that time again, building another PrizePicks lineup. We are up $900 this year, building these once a week with you. Last couple of weeks, we've gone 2-1 multiple times. So if you have other ways to play these on an individual basis, highly recommend that you do that. This is what I do, obviously, but we do like stacking some of these to try to get some of the extra bonus payouts. And if you like doing the same, which we're going to give you a lineup right now that can turn $100 into $600, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to PrizePicks. Keep in mind, they're available in states like California and Texas, and they'll give you $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Use code Warren. Click the link below to get on board. Let's start right now. Our first one, we're going to do Brian Robinson, more than 17.5 rushing yards. Brian Robinson has actually gone over this in 6 of the 7 games that the San Francisco 49ers did not lose by over 10 points. So they lost a couple games by more than 10 points. He only got there once on those 3 games, but every other game that he's played, 7 of them, he's gone over this in 6 out of those 7 games, more than 17.5 rushing yards. The last 2 games that he played, 53 rushing yards and 41 rushing yards. The last 2 games for Brian Robinson, as you can see there. He's been doing a great job for them. And Kyle Shanahan did come out, mention Brian Robinson Jr. a little bit this past week, but getting him some more touches. So there's a little bit of coach narrative as well. Second one for our lineup today is Jaylen Warren, more than 75.5 rushing yards. If you listen to our other podcasts, you know this is Rich Hribar's favorite prop this week. He really likes this one a lot. And it's obvious as to why. You look at that green spike that you could see on the screen. The last time that Jaylen Warren went up against the Cincinnati Bengals, he had 127 rushing yards. Now, Jaylen Warren doesn't regularly record more than 75.5 rushing yards. In fact, that's the only game of the year that he has recorded more than 75.5 rushing yards. But a couple things at play here. Number one, he's taken the lion's share of the workload in more recent weeks. And Coach Tomlin talked recently about trying to increase his workload even more, getting him more touches because they know how valuable he is to the offense, especially on the ground for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number two, you're going up against a run defense that everybody pretty much has career games against. The Cincinnati Bengals run defense is one of the worst in the NFL, especially without Trey Hendrickson out on the field. They literally are the worst by far in the NFL with the number of explosives they allow, the number of rushing yards they allow, the yards per carry, the EPA, all the statistics with Trey Hendrickson off the field this year. They've been terrible. So you put those two factors together in a game where the Pittsburgh Steelers are home favorites. Hopefully the game script goes accordingly and Jaylen Warren can exceed 75.5 rushing yards. Last but not least, we've got Dillon Gabriel, longest completion under 28 You see all the red that's on the screen right now? That's because Dylan Gabriel has not thrown for a completion longer than 28.5 in his last 5 games. But guess what? Back it up even further. At no point in any game this season did Dylan Gabriel throw a longest completion more than 28.5 yards. He hasn't done it once. So we're hoping that he doesn't do it in this game against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Baltimore has given up some explosives, and it is not a clean play. This is definitely not a clean play because Baltimore has had some tendencies to give up some explosive gains to some of their opponents. But you factor in what could be potentially some wind in Cleveland on Sunday, coupled with Dylan Gabriel and the passing strategy of this offense, which is not to focus downfield, focus underneath. The only way I see them getting this is on a shorter pass that ends up breaking some tackles and having some success down the field. So let's hope that that doesn't happen. Dylan Gabriel does not throw for more than 28.5 on his longest completion. Put these together, 100. We're looking to turn it into 600. Reminder, if you want to join us and try to do the same, go over to PrizePicks, download the app by clicking the link below, and you'll be able to get a free $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first lineup. So make sure you sign up using code Warren. Good luck to everybody.
All right, it's time for Agree or Disagree. My favorite game, Rich's least favorite game, which helps make it my favorite game. Actually, I do like when he is in pain. It does make me happy. What I do is I throw out a statement, and Rich has to agree or disagree. Then we kind of talk through it. And I think the most interesting place to start this week is with the Lions and what we saw from them. So my statement will be the switch to Dan Campbell as play caller will be a good thing for the Lions offense.
Yeah, I agree. And really because Dan Campbell's plan was just to say, like, remember all that stuff that we did that worked?
Yeah.
What if we did that stuff again?
Galaxy brain. Absolute galaxy brain.
And, that was always one of the puzzling things that we talked about from week 1 with John Morton, kind of taking over. It was just like, hey, you were an internal hire. And usually when you have those internal hires, you would say like, well, what did you absorb from the previous, coaching staff? Like, would you just not just keep doing the same things in-house that worked? It wasn't like you're bringing a new system over and you're trying to implement the system. Like you're just elevated. Kevin Patullo, again, questioning you as well. But, it wasn't like completely off kilter with John Morton. Like they were doing some of the stuff Ben Johnson was doing, but just like not enough of it. And then Dan Campbell came back and Jared Goff was under center for 61% of his dropbacks as his 3rd highest rate in the season, his highest since week 5. They used pre-snap motion at the 2nd highest rate they did this season. Goff got the ball out quicker. They used play action on the highest rate this season. They started to use Jamison Williams in the capacity we've been talking about for months, really. Like, it's just not using him downfield. They also went back and did like the 50-50 kind of backfield split. The backfield rotation was a lot similar to the previous 2 years where David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were kind of trading off. And whether or not that was just like part of the plan or to keep Gibbs like fresher and it worked for a week, and we see the results there, like we'll see, because they played the Commanders last week, right? Like that's the one thing. Like they're going to now be playing against Vic Fangio's defense. We'll get to see proof of concept of this, but all the things the Lions were doing that we really liked in the Ben Johnson era, Dan Campbell brought like back for a week and was like, hey, this is like what we do well. Like, let's get back to doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's the point. Like, we're not going to preview this game because honestly, I'm tired of talking about the Eagles offense. It's one of the best games of the week, but that Eagles offense just continues to make me sad. But I do think ultimately that is like the point here is, will it work out this week? I'm not sure. But if we're looking at, they're doing the things that good offenses have been doing this year, playing more under center, using more play action, using more motion. Those last two are just things that good offenses have done for a long time. But the under center part of it is certainly something that we've seen, pick up this year in some of the best offenses. Matthew Stafford, for instance, has certainly been benefiting from that as well. And so
especially if you have these guys with some limitations like Goff. Goff is a good quarterback. Like we would definitely put him in the like he's good, but like we know like in terms of like apex quarterbacks, like he wouldn't make like your top 5 or anything. You've got to manufacture some stuff for Goff, like a Sam Darnold, right? Like, and so you make Goff better. Like it's not a coincidence that Goff also played a really good game going back to these things.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do get the test this week. Like this is absolutely a test against this defense. This run defense when Jalen Carter's in there is elite. Obviously, they made their additions. We saw Jalen Phillips already have an impact. We'll see what happens at corner. We didn't really see, obviously Jair Alexander stepping away. We didn't see Michael Carter, I don't think as much this past week. So we'll have to see what happens with this defense. But we know that this defense is good. On the other side, and I don't really want to bring up the Eagles offense, but I do think we should talk about this game a little bit. Okay. I know you like Hurts in this matchup. The Lions defense is getting healthier. It seems like DJ Reed should be back this week, which that's actually huge. DJ Reed is one of the better corners in the league. But ultimately, you like Hurts in this matchup just because of, I believe, how he matches up with what the Lions want to do on defense.
Yeah, and if they get DJ Reed back, that probably is more incentive for them to even continue to keep playing like, aggressive, man coverage. This would be a matchup that they probably shouldn't, though, right? Like it's like, oh, let's make Jalen Hurts kind of drop back, take some of his reads away. All Jalen Hurts, like the weeks the Eagles offense looks like the most inept are the teams that make Jalen Hurts like come off of his first read, play a lot of zone coverage. But these teams that play against man coverage, like he's absolutely cooked. I mean, he's 5th in completion rate against man coverage. He's 3rd in yards per pass. He has 12 touchdowns to 1 interception against man coverage. Only Matthew Stafford has a higher touchdown rate against man coverage than Jalen Hurts. But then against zone coverage, he goes to 13th in completion rate, 23rd in yards per pass attempt, 17th in touchdown rate. And then when you play aggressive defense too, you also open the door for scrambling. And Detroit, they've been better in recent weeks in terms of allowing quarterback rushing yardage, but they still have given up a decent amount of rushing points to quarterbacks. They're 20th, and we haven't really seen Hurts running a lot. He has a 3-game drought without a touchdown. It's his longest streak, rushing touchdown that is, since 2022. So we haven't really been getting that, like the dependency of the tush push, right? And everyone thought for sure we were going to get one on Monday night because of, Sirianni's, open attack on the tush push. I thought we might just get a whole drive of tush push at one point. I'm sorry, not Nick Sirianni, Matt LaFleur, wanting it. It was like leading the charge of getting it banned. Yeah. So I thought we were going to get a ton of it from Sirianni because he's kind of that kind of goober. But we haven't been getting those rushing touchdowns.
I will not let you insult that type of petty behavior. We support that type of petty behavior here on the Sharp Football Analysis podcast. We support it fully, and I'm sure they would have loved to, but neither team decided to play offense in that game, and so it didn't ultimately end up mattering. But I'm sure they would have loved to get the tush push. I do think his rushing stuff has been like interesting that we haven't seen as much. And I remember it happening last year as well.
Yeah.
And we had the issue with last year. Last year we just assumed
he had that knee injury.
And I assume it was injury, but we've seen that happen again. But again, if you're playing man coverage, you're going to like his chances to escape. And the other thing about man coverage is not even just as many runs as you get against man coverage. We've seen that with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is actually running more against zone than he is against man. But the thing is, against man coverage, you have opportunity for big runs because of just the way that everything's set up. And
and Fields, it makes sense because one, they don't really have that many good pass catchers, especially with down Garrett Wilson. It's like when no one's open, Justin Fields' first instinct is like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But man coverage, they can't also pass block. So like it's just a wrap. Hurts actually, like his component, like he's not like a huge scrambler. Like in week 1, he had he had like his highest scramble rate of his career in that Eberflus game. But like those were his first 2 scrambling rushing touchdowns over the past 2 years. Like he didn't have any scrambling rushing touchdowns last year. It was all tush push stuff.
Well, you don't have to if immediately you're in a tush push when you're 2 yards out. So it doesn't matter. But anyway, that is an interesting game. I do think it's a really good game set up for AJ Brown. I would encourage that you go and read the worksheet preview of this game and all of the games, which again are available for free this week as part of our free week. So head over to Sharp Football Analysis, check out the preview of that Lions-Eagles game.
Devontae Smith's been awesome, man.
Devonta Smith. Well, that's the thing. Like, all right, well, I guess we're going to get deeper into this. But that's the thing you talk about with like their splits against man coverage. Of course, they're going to get man coverage. They have 2 awesome wide receivers.
2 really good wide receivers.
Like, it's pretty straightforward. Like, oh, these 2 guys are going to win their matchups because they're awesome. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. So why would you play man coverage against 2 awesome wide receivers? That's ultimately all right. We'll get off. We'll get off it. Make sure you go and read the worksheet preview for that and all of the games as well. Let's move on to the Vikings and Bears. Another fun game, like that we're not going to talk about in full here because we just have so many fun games. But the Vikings Bears could be fun, I should say. And my statement for this one is JJ McCarthy is going to win people money in DFS this week.
Maybe. I mean, I'd hope so. A lot of guys. I mean, it's a big maybe because he takes the step of faith. It's like anytime you're in these situations where you let the matchup drive the cart, you're kind of in like scary territory. Like you always want the matchup to be like the the bonus. Like you want to be talking about the player, and then you want the matchup to elevate. This one is like the matchup is great, but is the player good enough to take advantage of said matchup?
It hasn't been great. It hasn't been great, Rich. It's not been good.
He himself has been like okay for fantasy because like he's running around a little bit, and we saw Kevin O'Connell at least like let him throw last week. It was again, he was dropping back to throw, but they at least had a pass rate over expectation, which is like, you know, the kind of the Kevin O'Connell was like, this is the offense, like we got to start running it. But he was 7 of 23 passing last week to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Those guys are kind of where the ball wants to go. You know, you're not going to build the whole plate out of Jalen Naylor targets and have a lot of success in the NFL, but he's thrown for fewer than 6 yards per pass attempt since returning in both games. Like I said, he's giving you viable weeks, but like we would hope for him to have efficiency, because then the matchup can turn that like floor production and turn into like a spike week.
Yeah.
So that does exist. The Bears are 30th in passing points allowed per attempt. They're 31st in touchdown rate allowed. They also have a lot of the most rushing yards, the quarterbacks too, which McCarthy's another one of these guys. Like he can move, but he's like Bo Nixian, where like he'll run, but like it's not like consistent. Like he's not out here just like, he's not like Jackson Dart, like, you know, run around. He can move, but it's not really like what he's set out to do. But yeah, I think it's interesting. They're indoors. This Bears defense is one to attack. It's interesting because we're in this like still like kind of, I would still call it a defensive meta top down. We kind of let off the show with that a little bit, but we do have like some historically bad defenses this year that like weekly we're just kind of like, yeah, like this team's playing the Bengals, this team's playing the Cowboys, this team's playing the Bears. The Commanders are totally in that bucket now too. Because they're just dead. Like they've been, and I would include the 49ers in this bucket now too. And the 49ers have a competent offense, like low key, like the 49ers, like if you look at like their like past month, like their game environments are really high scoring as well, because they have a competent offense and their defense can't stop anyone right now. So we still have these defenses to pick on, and the Bears have been one of those.
And their offense is probably going to be even more competent this week if everybody comes back. In fact, there might be some Cardinals involved in the Uncut Gems section, but we'll get there. We'll get there a little bit later. I also have to mention in this game that I absolutely love Aaron Jones this week. The Bears have been a better run defense, but if you look at how the splits have been going between Jones and Jordan Mason recently, it seems like we're getting back to Aaron Jones as a clear lead back. And if Aaron Jones is a clear lead back, that's good news against any matchup. And I'm still not even really convinced that this Bears run defense is all that great, right? There is some matchup stuff going on with them and kind of the numbers we've seen. So I really like Aaron Jones this week. I think he's going to be a good play in DFS, and I'm a big fan of his overs this week. We'll say. So make sure listen to the next podcast in your feed from here. You might hear a little bit more about Aaron Jones as we go. This is we're just teasing everything. We're teasing everything here this week. All right, one more here, and again another fun game that we're not going to preview just because there's so many games this week. It is really a good week. This should be a fun week of football. So I'm hoping for the best. But here's my statement for you. Bears-Steelers is going to be just as fun this week as it was Bengals-Steelers. It's going to be just as fun this week as it was the first time.
I'll say no, and it's just because
no, how dare you?
Yeah,
but
I mean,
so much fun.
But yeah, because it still exists in the range of outcomes, but like, divisional matchup on the road in Pittsburgh in November, like the Bengals have like a really depressed team total for what they've been at too. Like it seems like this would be like kind of a spot for them to slow down. But I will say this, the Bengals only know how to play it one way.
That's right.
Like the defense is terrible. Like we're going to get a ton of dropbacks regardless. So I would say that this would be a spot though where we could expect it maybe not to be that great in terms of like back and forth. The Bengals have played a bunch of home games under Flacco, but the last time they were on the road, it was his first start, but it was a little like slower paced game against the Packers. I could see that being here because they still can't stop anyone on the ground, and I think the Steelers are going to run the football a lot in this game, so that could maybe have a little bit of like depressed play volume, but we are going to see Joe Flacco drop back a ton in this game. But I'm interested to see like the moving parts here, especially in the Steelers defense, because, Darius Slay is probably going to be out. Darius Slay hasn't been good to begin with, but the second Brandon Eccles came in that game Sunday night, like Justin Herbert just found him and just was like, I'm just going to keep targeting him. When these teams met the first time, the Bengals just completely avoided Joey Porter Jr. They're like, the other guys aren't good. We're going to attack them. And that was with Jalen Ramsey playing cornerback. He moved around. We'll see like what they do with him. If they have to like rotate the chairs, see if Asante Samuel dresses, even if he plays. Like, this is a guy who hasn't played football in nearly a year. He had the back surgery. Pretty scary injury, but he's going to be back. They signed him. It's just a lot of moving parts here for the defense, but I expect the pass rush to be a little bit better here for the Pittsburgh being at home. And just like I said, respecting the divisional rematch, and then Pittsburgh, like in a game at Heinz Field in November, it feels slower.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I also still think like there's so many guys that we're going to be interested in. I mean, Jalen Warren all the time. Jalen Warren. If Samaje Perine ends up being out, which it seems like, we're going to get full workhorse Chase Brown back. He's been playing better. Is that because he's had, he hasn't been run as much? I don't know. We'll see, I guess, with Chase Brown, although he had the massive workload the week before their bye. I had Aaron Rodgers as a streaming option, as I kind of mentioned at the top. You had him as a trust, could actually throw down the field this week. So there's lots of things to like about this game. And so ultimately, I kind of do think it's still going to be fun. And just the Bengals defense is just that bad. Like you mentioned, it might, that might just be, there's no other option than Bengals games to be fun because of kind of where we
I just mean in context of the first game.
Sure.
Like
the first game was wild.
Yeah.
The other problem of the Steelers team is that I really would love to play a tight end against the Bengals, and you just have literally no idea which Steelers tight end you would play. Like,
I think it's Darnell Washington. I tried to make the case that there was signal for, if you're going to throw a dart, to be Darnell Washington this week.
Throwing shade at me about Elijah Higgins and then like just trying to make a case about Darnell Washington. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable from you. I do like Elijah Higgins a little bit this week, but that's not even an Uncut Gem territory. That's just pure sick.
Well, I'm just saying you want to play, like, if you want to play a Pittsburgh tight end, I'm not suggesting Darnell Washington in context of just playing him. I'm saying if you're yeah, if you want to play a Pittsburgh tight end, you're like, oh, I just don't know which one to play. I think that there is signal for this actual being like you would choose between the three-headed Cerberus of Darnell Washington. So Washington's 3 highest snap counts have come in wins. We expect them to run the football here, and if they're running the football, who's on the field?
Yeah,
Darnell Washington. His 2 highest yardage totals because of that have come in home wins in Pittsburgh. 62 yards against the Browns, and then 443. And so it's like, if they're running the football, he's going to be on the field. And like, so that's why I just say like, there's probably more opportunities for him to be like the guy. Remember the first time these teams played, the Steelers actually fell behind and like they had to kind of go to like their open personnel, which why Freiermuth got the juice and Calvin Austin didn't play in that game too. But that's what propelled Freiermuth, is they weren't running the ball in that game. They had rushing efficiency, but weren't in like a running script. I think they're going to be in a running script here.
Washington in that first game, when he had like 3 catches for 2 yards and a touchdown, it was something like that. It was some really fun line.
Yeah, 3 catches, 2 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. What a fun line. What a fun line. All right, we're going to move on to talk about some game previews. Like I said, I mentioned a couple of them in that last section. Like there's so many fun games. Make sure you head over to Sharp Football Analysis, read the worksheet previews for all of these games. Rich does every single fantasy relevant player every single week. Also have his fantasy rankings up there. All of that is available as part of free week. So make sure if you're not signed up, you go and sign up and get all that information for free this week. I guarantee you're going to like it. Also remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you find us, YouTube, your podcast player of choice. On our Friday show, we are now Warren is down 9-1 on his elevated best bet this season. So we're sending out winners. Rich is always giving out winners on that episode. So make sure you go and check that out. Also do college football with the great Ryan McChrystal, refs from the wonderful Joe Gibbs. So make sure you go and check that episode out as well. All right, let's get to the games. There were so many games to choose from. I think we should get started here with Seattle at the Rams. I think it's going to be I think this is the game of the week, even though there are a lot of fun games. This one is the game of the week.
Well, this is the real football game of the week.
These 2 teams are very, very good. Both of them are very good. I have been wanting to. I was in on the Rams to win the division ahead of the year, and I put money on that. And now I might be hedging here with the Seahawks. Like, I don't know who's coming out on top. I just know that both of these teams are really good. Rams are 3-point favorites, a 48.5 point total, which is a little bit surprising that it's that high with both of these caliber of defenses, but obviously the quarterbacks have been elite as well. We don't know about Devontae Adams. He was a DMP on Wednesday, so we're still going to have to, we record this on Thursday morning. So if there's any injury stuff that happens, like perhaps if we talk about Travis Hunter for 20 minutes and then he immediately goes on season-ending injured reserve, that's why that happens. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think talking about this game is interesting from the Seattle offensive side because we've seen this offense be very successful, this passing game be very successful on a per throw, per drop back basis, but they just haven't had to drop back because this team is so good in the game scripts that they're able to stay in. Darnold's two biggest attempt games this season came in a game against the Steelers in which they were actually down at halftime, and then that loss against the Bucs, which was really back and forth. I'm approaching this game that it's going to be similar to those two games, that it's going to be competitive and that we're going to get a lot more volume out of Darnold. Now, a lot of volume out of Darnold still might only be 35 attempts, right? But if I'm approaching this game from that perspective, obviously that's good for Jackson Smith and Jigba. We don't have to talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba. You're going to play him. He's great. But I do think we could see more targets for the secondary option. Rashid Shaheed in a second game with the team. Cooper Kupp looking healthy last week, get him. And so I think that if we're thinking about both from like a props perspective and then maybe even from a DFS perspective, I don't know how well this works out for Sam Darnold because it's not like a great matchup. But if we get 35 attempts from him, then you're going to feel a lot better about those secondary options in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at the context of these defenses too, I still do believe while the Rams are a good defense and they have a good pass rush, they are still vulnerable on the back end. And the good quarterbacks that they have faced this year have had success against them. I mean, Mac Jones threw for 300 yards. You can asterisk last week's game because of game script if you want, but the 49ers were moving the football in the first half of that game too. Juwan Jennings had the fumble, a turnover. I think they went for a fourth down and didn't get it, but they were moving the ball. And then when these teams earlier, they played the Eagles. I mean, Jalen Hurts, who we talked about the open show, he had 3 passing touchdowns against them and had 29 fantasy points. Their best showing was against Daniel Jones and the Colts in terms of like limiting fantasy output for a passer. But like the rest of their schedule has been Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence, Cooper Rush, Tyler Shuck, and CJ Stroud in the opener. So the sample size of competent defenses or offenses having success in them is strong. So I think there is some signal here that Darnold will still have success against them. I'm very curious to see too if they're forced to throw more because the Rams run defense has been excellent all year. Both these run defenses have been really good this year. The Rams just allowed their first rushing touchdown of the season last week to Brian Robinson. So if they're able to force like the Seattle run game to not be good, and not that it's been like hyper efficient anyways, but if you can just force them into like more negative runs, they might be more incentivized to throw. If you get ahead, they might be incentivized. So there's a lot of avenues here, Sam Darnold to throw more, basically. And if we're throwing more, like obviously you told me not to Jackson Smith and Jigba, but like, I mean, this dude's running 24.8 routes per game. Last week he had 93 yards and a touchdown. He ran 11 routes. It's like
the stat you have every week about his yards per route run just being, it's so far ahead of where anybody else has been since we've started doing that data. What is it? It's still what?
So it's like 4.7, just under 4.67. The highest at this point of a season. No one else has been ever 4. There was the first year Tyreek was with Mike McDaniel was like nudging close to 4. And then I pulled up too. I was like, well, let me pull up like how many the highest yardage totals this point of the season, right? And he has the 8th most receiving yards this point of a season, but like he has by far the fewest targets of any of those players. Like since the target data has been tracked, like he has 8. So it's just like what he's doing on his actual volume is crazy. So if we're in an environment where he can actually run 30 plus routes, he's only run 30 or more routes in a game 3 times this year, and obviously has gone over 100 yards in all those games. So if you're talking about a game where you can have 35 routes run, maybe pie in the sky we can get 40 plus. Like you're talking about a guy that can just put up like a huge total. Like I'm still on Thursday and I have no idea like how I want to anchor lineups, whether it be Jamar Chase or Jackson Smith and Jigba this week. Like we didn't really talk about Chase in the game. It's like man, like both these guys like could really break, kind of like have just huge numbers this week. So, but like you said, that's going to trickle down to guys like Rashid Shaheed, who we really didn't see like a high run out for him. He did have a nice couple of like runs, like jet sweeps and stuff like that, using him in space. But he's going to be on the field more this week, so they're going to be dropping back more. A little bit of Cooper Kupp. If there was ever a time for them to have something dialed up for Cooper Kupp, this would probably be it, right? Like going back to Los Angeles. I know we don't want to swerve hard into the revenge game stuff. Like there's, this stuff matters to some of these guys. I might have something for him in the red zone.
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't do narrative because I definitely do narrative, and I'm here for the narrative street. Cooper Kupp on your Chase and JSN thing. Let's just do both, right?
It's really hard this week. It's really hard to do both.
I don't care. Let's just do both. Why not? Let's just make it.
But yes, I would love to. I would love to do both.
Could we get like a combined 30 targets between those?
Chase, I had the stat that they like he has 62 targets in 4 games at Flacco, which is 6 more than DK Metcalf has the whole season.
God bless you, Joe Flacco. We really do love you. You are our Jameis Winston.
Where can we get Flacco next year? Like we got like we got like everyone's like hype about Jameis starting, and like Flacco's the dude we need to get places.
Yeah, that's fun. Do we want Joe Flacco in Jacksonville? Would that be a good time? That would be fun, right? Sorry, Trevor. It's not going well. It's not going well, Trevor. But I'm hoping for the best for you. On the other side, I mean, obviously the other quarterback has been just as hot as Sam Darnold. It's been, from a counting stats perspective, much better in Matthew Stafford. But this is also a bad matchup for him. In fact, I would argue that this is a worse matchup for Stafford than it is for Darnold. That the Seattle defense is just it's elite. It's really, really good. And so he's been hot. But we know that we're going to have to rely on efficiency with him. We know we're going to have to rely on touchdowns. Are we still just like rolling him out there in this matchup, or what are we doing with Stafford?
Yeah, I think even with it being such a good week, I think he's a tough sit, especially because this game environment could just outright be good.
Yeah.
Proof concept. I will say, like when you look at his hot run, like there are no surprises here. Like obviously he's punching up, so it's like not all matchup. Like you want good players to eviscerate. Again, we talked about earlier, like you want it to raise the bar, like the matchup to be an elevator. But his 5 QB1 games this year have come against the 49ers twice, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Colts. Like he's faced 2 teams in the top 10 in passing points allowed this season, the Eagles and the Texans, and he was easily a QB2 in both of those games. He had 13 fantasy points in both games. The other week that he faced a competent defense was the Baltimore game, which at that point people considered it like a great matchup. And even I remember writing up that week, I was like, they're getting like all these guys back. Like it's still at least like, let's see what Baltimore does. And we also have Puka Nacua, who's like still kind of banged up. They're at least nursing his playing time a little bit, managing his playing time. Devontae Adams is banged up as well. So like there are some pulling threads here, I think, on Stafford, and we just don't expect him to throw 4 passing touchdowns every week. If he does, then he's going to walk away because I think he's the favorite now for MVP at this point. Yeah. But we do expect him to kind of at least come back to the realm of like mortality a little bit.
You would expect that to happen, and especially like you said, if Devontae is out, then that really changes things. They also don't have Tutu Atwell, who I believe is still on injured reserve, and so
how many tight ends can we play at once?
They are using a lot of 3 tight ends, and I do really like Terrence Ferguson. And Terrence Ferguson can, he can make big plays, and so we could get some interesting stuff happening here with Ferguson for sure. We got to get our weekly Davis Allen touchdown. That's really important for us to roll out there for the Rams.
But I think he's a tough stream. Like, are you going to bench Stafford for JJ McCarthy? Like,
I bench him for Jacoby.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. I'd play Jacoby Brissett over him.
Interesting.
If Marvin Harrison was playing, I would feel a lot better about that, to be fair. But I still think I would. But we'll see.
Like, you're not gonna are you play Aaron Rodgers over? Like,
no,
it's just tough. Like it's tough to go that. That's why I say I think you just keep riding it out with these guys. But I am tempering expectations. I think this game also could be a fist fight.
Yeah.
Like there is an absolute outcome where this game is a fist fight.
Yeah, like you mentioned the matchup for the Seattle backfield, as if Seattle cares about that. Like they're just going to run Kenneth Walker into it anyway, run Charbonnet into it anyway. They don't care if it's working or not. So yeah, we could certainly see a situation. The Rams backfield is interesting because this isn't a great matchup for Kyren Williams, obviously, and we know he's not particularly an elevator. He's a guy that we just need to get the touches and get the touchdowns. But we do have some interesting splits here with the Rams in competitive game environments or games where they're losing, in which the split we've seen to start to develop between he and Blake Corum, that doesn't really exist. They just lean completely on Kyren Williams when they're in these more competitive games. So maybe that's a way here for him as a receiver to get there as well. We didn't get it last week, but maybe we get there as a receiver. So there are still avenues here for Kyren, even though, the matchup isn't ideal, especially if this game shoots out, especially if this game is competitive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the mirror. This game is a complete mirror match. You've got the two quarterbacks that play under center the most in the NFL. You've got the big vertical passing game, teams that want to throw like pre-snap motion under center. You've got kind of these backfields that are more volume based. They don't throw to running backs. He's the two lowest quarterbacks in target rate to running backs as well. Like they're just doing the same stuff largely in different ways, but the under the hood metrics are like stylistically though they're operating in a similar capacity.
Yeah, it's fun that the NFC West has three of these offenses now. It's really the hub here of us changing.
I mean, this is the way, man. This is the way.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it's what's happening in Arizona too with Jacoby. So I guess we're 4 for 4.
Yes.
On this one, if we're looking at it.
I mean, this is what you want, man. It's our father-in-law's footballs are back.
It's exciting. Back, can't wait to get back to 14-10 final scores. All right, let's talk about the Chiefs at Denver. Another absolutely great matchup here. The Chiefs are 4-point favorites in this game, 44.5 point total, which I do think makes sense. So this isn't like the high total games that we normally talk about, but obviously it is a really good game and it has some interesting situations in it. The most notable obviously is a Denver backfield. We still don't have official word on J.K. Dobbins, but we got reports they were considering putting him on injured reserve. That pretty much tells us what's going to happen this week, right? In fact, by the time you're listening to this, we might have official word on J.K. Dobbins, but it seems like RJ Harvey's going to be the guy. He's going to be the starter. So I guess what do we do with him in this kind of first chance for him without kind of Dobbins as the lead guy?
Yeah, this is very similar to, I think, the Travion Henderson situation a couple weeks ago, where you look at RJ Harvey's like profile and his usage at this point, and you're not excited.
Yeah.
But also, what this guy was drafted for, the big plays that they're capable of, and you kind of have to throw that out the window a little bit in terms of role. Now, I wish this was like a little bit better of a spot in terms like to instill some confidence in it. Like this, you brought up the game total. The Chiefs have actually like held opponents against the Chiefs have scored below their implied total at the largest rate this year, and Denver's third. Like both these defenses are good. I know there's some still fragility here with Pat Surtain being out and then Alex Singleton being out, but the Chiefs also they just left the door open for us that last week we saw them of, just the Matt Nagy stench, man. Like what they did in week 9 was just that can't Andy Reid can't let that happen on his watch. Where essentially the Sean McDermott was like, hey, we know that you've talked about throwing downfield all season long and all off season. But what if we don't rush anyone? We drop 6 in coverage. In fact, they actually played 6 or more defensive backs at the second highest rate of any team in a game this season. We play 2-man fronts. Bills use 2-man fronts at their season high rate of their snaps, and we take away the deep ball. And the Chiefs are like, you know what we're still going to do? We're going to try to throw deep every play. Against all that coverage and that approach, the Chiefs Mahomes averaged 15 air yards per attempt. Every drop back in that game, I was going crazy watching the game. Where is the quick game? Why are they not taking advantage of this? The Bills were begging them to run. They didn't care, right? It was just crazy that the Chiefs just completely swerved into exactly what Sean Dermott wanted him to do.
Especially since you have Rashee Rice back. It's not like you're just relying on Travis Kelce or Juju Smith-Schuster or something like that. You have Rashee Rice back. Just throw it to Rashee Rice and let him do what he does, right?
But one piece of fragility you have here too is that Mahomes, for as good as he's been this year, and he has bounced back in totality, is that he's been really awful under pressure. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, he's completed 42.5% of his passes under pressure. That's 27th in the league. Only Caleb Williams has a higher inaccurate throw rate under pressure than Patrick Mahomes. And that's still relevant because even though Patrick Surtain's not here, Denver can still rush the passer. This team still leads the NFL in sack rate. They're third in pressure rate. The past 2 times these teams have played, Mahomes has sack rates way above his norms. And he just hasn't scored a lot of fantasy points in these games. So I do expect this game to also be kind of a fist fight as well. The other side also is because Bo Nix has been bad, and it's really hard to think that he's just going to turn it on here. But going back to Harvey though, we have this. We have Jaleel McLaughlin, who's probably going to be active, but has been active one game this year and has 1 touch. Also, Jaleel
snaps. I think I looked it up for Monday. He's played 6 snaps all season. It's not a lot there. Yeah.
And also, Jaleel McLaughlin isn't a replacement for J.K. Dobbins because he's smaller than R.J. Harvey and also sucks in pass protection.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think we're going to see Jaleel McLaughlin just inherit this role. So even if you say, all right, R.J. Harvey has the role he had as a guy that would come in the game as a pass catcher, have these designed plays, because if you look at his target rate per route stuff, he's clearly coming in for these package plays. So if he absorbs even 75% of what J.K. Dobbins leaves on the field, you're still talking a 14 to 18 touch running back. And that, you're just going to throw at the wall still. So you hope,
especially when he has big play upside, we know that Harvey does. You're just,
and we saw that with Trayvon Henderson. Even people were trying to tear him down against the Bucs. And it's dude, if he gets out, this is what you need, the big plays. So that, I think it's very similar to that. Like I said, you don't have a lot of confidence in the spot, and the offense hasn't been playing as good, but you're going to take those touches in this climate. Imagine me telling you hey, we're going to be in week 11 and RJ Harvey is starting in a high profile game, and you're gonna be nah, I don't want to play him.
Yeah, exactly.
This,
you're rolling him out there for sure. And also, don't freak out. Tyler Bidet is going to play. So if you start RJ Harvey, and he's going to play snaps, he's going to play passing snaps. Don't freak out. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
RJ Harvey has 4 snaps in pass protection this year.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of Bidet, which again, I will say every time, I like you. I think you're a fun player. You have to go by Batty. Batty is just it's so much better.
Also, I wrote about this too, just kind of, we're shooting off the cuff, but I wrote about this too, as I wonder if that as a byproduct, and it could be worse for the offense, but I do wonder if it's better. So the Broncos struggle with identity crisis. When you watch a Broncos game, and they are really, their best aspect, I would believe, on offense this year actually is J.K. Dobbins in power football. Their offensive line is excellent. J.K. Dobbins has been really good. This team they should have swerved into, I think, running more power football and then letting Bo Nix play off of that. So it could be bad in that sense. If they're not running efficiently, then now they have to do more stuff Bo Nix. But the Broncos are a really weird offense because they'll do stuff the power game be good, and then they'll just run some college stuff mixed in, and you're pick a lane. And I wonder if at least this helps them to at least pick a lane on offense.
Yeah, that was one of the more interesting things I read from you this week, that I thought your breakdown of what this looks like. Because I do agree it's better with Dobbins, because think of the career Dobbins would have had without all those injuries. This guy is so good. But yeah, I do think it's interesting. It's going to make them play a specific way. By the way, you can get access to all the worksheets. Head over to Sharp Football Analysis, part of Free Week. Go and check it out. I also think, as we're talking about that offensive identity, what are we doing with Courtland Sutton? What's the deal here with Courtland Sutton? Because that's part of it as well. We have 4 weeks in a row now where Troy Franklin has more targets than he does, and Troy Franklin's not even been good. It's not like he's been super efficient. He plays in the type of the part of the field where Bo Nix has really struggled this year, and so it's not like Troy Franklin's really been producing with those targets. What's been going on with Sutton? What are we doing with him? It's just, there's a lot of what are we doing in this offense? You need pass catchers. Why isn't Evan Ingram playing more? Because when he does play, he's fine, but he's playing 50% of the snaps. I know why he's playing 50% of the snaps, because he's not a run blocker, and they want to,
because again, they have no identity. They just
exactly.
They oscillate back and forth between power team and then a weird hybrid of college offense mixed with Sean Payton's Saints offense.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If they are running more of that, more college offense, then do we get more Evan Ingram? Is that going to be we're going to get a boom in playing time for him? We're getting Marvin Mims back this week. What does that look like? There are a lot of questions here with this team. It could be very interesting with them.
And it all comes back to the play of Bo Nix still too.
Got to play better.
Yeah,
you just got to play better. on the Chiefs side, I mean, I mean, think we kind of know where you are. It doesn't seem like Isaiah Pacheco is going to play. We saw before the bye that was a lot of Kareem Hunt. Obviously, they've got the bye. Maybe they try to get Rashard Smith more involved. But the reason I thought it was going to be a lot of Kareem Hunt before the bye was because it was a massive game against the Bills, and they were going to lean into the veteran. Well, there's a massive game against the Broncos. I assume they will keep leaning into the veteran. But from a passing game perspective, like I do think the question of what do we do with Xavier Worthy is a good one, because as you continue to point out in the worksheet every single week, is that this is now a pretty long run of him just not being a very high volume receiving yardage guy, and now with Rashard, with Rashee Rice back and just being just a clear number one as we kind of expected ahead of the season, like there's not a lot here for Xavier Worthy, especially if we don't expect the Chiefs offense to really score a lot of points this week.
Yeah, he, and listen, he was a scary fade, and not that I've gotten a lot of things right, because I actually was scared fading him but I just thought his draft cost was insane, because it's like, when Rashee Rice is going to come back, and like it's still going to be him. But Xavier Worthy has played 25 career games, and that's me removing the 2 games like he left early. And he's only averaging 3.8 receptions for 43.7 yards per game. He's hit 80 yards receiving in 3 of those 25 games. He's been below 50 yards receiving in 16 of those games. And like the matchup is just not good here. Like the Broncos have had 2 touchdowns to wide receivers all year. They have faced 2 pretty weak quarterbacks since the Surtain injury, but they've also shifted, which makes sense, right? Like when you lose a guy like Patrick Surtain, he allows you to play a specific style of football. They've gone from being the 3rd heaviest man coverage team in the NFL to basically middle of the pack to 15th. They're playing a lot more too high stuff. These past 2 weeks, they've actually their 2 lowest rates of man coverage. And again, all the stuff makes sense. But if they're going to play more zone coverage, that just goes right back to where Rashee Rice's bread and butter has been. We talk about this ad nauseum. Like since he's entered the NFL, he averages 3.2 yards per out run against zone coverage. Like it's number 1 in the NFL. So it kind of just opens the door for more targets, for more things to run through Rashee Rice here. So I expect there to be a lot of Rashee Rice in this game, even though the matchup's not particularly great from like a ceiling perspective. Like, expect Rashee Rice to maybe have like the 10 for 130 in this game, but I expect him to have, upwards of like 8-9 catches for like 80 plus yards.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game for Rice. Unfortunately, Worthy can always just get the big play, right? So it's there, but
he's still fast.
He's still fast, but I don't think it's particularly going to be a good one for him. All right, we got one more game to get to real quick here that I just wanted to hit on because it's another one of the great games we have this week. Again, there's so many great games here. This is the Bucs at the Bills. Bills 5.5 point favorites, 48 point total. We run into this problem every single week that we want to talk about Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay has continually played in good games. But when we record this on Thursday morning, we have no idea who's going to be playing on the weekend. I thought that we had a pretty good handle that we weren't going to see Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin again this week. It seemed like that was the case on Monday based on some of the comments. And then they got into limited practice on Wednesday. So I'm going to throw my hands up in the air a little bit here and say, I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I do still think they're, based on what we've seen recently from the Bucs, there's certainly reason to be concerned about both Baker Mayfield and just this Tampa passing game as a whole.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Well, first of all, I've been like kind of in this boat all year. Like the Bucs aren't very good, and they haven't really been good on offense for like a month now. They've led for only 33% of their snaps. That's the 2nd lowest rate for any team with a winning record. It's 21st in the NFL. Only the 49ers are worst amongst winning teams. But since week 6, they're 23rd in points per drive. They're consistently like struggling to score points early in games. And you say like, man, if you're struggling to score points early in games on the road in Buffalo, like it could be real tough to get out of that hole. And then you look at the Buffalo side too, and like, they've been kind of like up and down as well. The absence of Dalton Kincaid is particularly significant for this matchup, because like the way you want to attack the Buccaneers is in the play action game, and Kincaid has been like the play action guy for the Bills. He's been their only like splash play receiver all year, like pass catcher. You're not really getting much out of anybody else outside of Khalil Shakir, and you know what you're getting from Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
No one else has done anything this offense. So the removal of Dalton Kincaid, I think, is a pretty big deal. He was leading the team in targets on play action passes. The last time Dalton Kincaid missed a game, Josh Allen completed 60%, fewer than 60% of his passes. He threw 2 interceptions with 6.9 yards per pass attempt. All 5 of Josh Allen's interceptions here have come with Dalton Kincaid off the field. So we kind of have some volatility there as well. Josh Allen also, he played really well in the Chiefs game, but he's the QB 11. And, it's funny, as you say, QB 11 is like a negative for a player, but he's the QB 11 in expected points per game since week 5. It's just, not the standard, it's like,
we expect him to be QB 1.
It's the bar he raised for himself.
Yeah.
He's capable of always having like a 3 rushing touchdown game or a multi-touch rushing. But yeah, this game is really weird. Like I as I wrote it up, is a game where it's like, you're like, it could be fun. Like the Bucks, it could be turned to a fun game. Josh Allen, the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, it could be fun. But this game also could like be really underwhelming as well.
Yeah, this is the game when you first look at the totals on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I got to this game and I'm like, I wouldn't bet the total in this game because I can make cases for either one. But if like someone held a gun up to my head and said, you have to pick, I'm taking the under, because I do think that both of these offenses have been disappointing. Dalton Kincaid, I'm glad you brought it up. Dalton Kincaid missing is a really big deal. It's not just like splash plays. Who's getting open? Like Shakir can, but again, we know who he is. They will get Josh Palmer back this week, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, like who's getting open for them? The Bucs offense, we don't even know who's going to play. And like you said, they particularly haven't been good until later in games. They did get me my 2, late Tez Johnson touchdowns last week. Baby. So got me there with Tez Johnson. I appreciate that. But yeah, like we just don't know. I want to make a case for Sean Tucker. In fact, I think if we hadn't gotten that Bucky Irving practice on Wednesday, Sean Tucker probably would have been my uncut gem because of the change we've seen in like rushing and who's getting those carries. Sean Tucker is playing a lot more of the rushing snaps. He's just a better runner than Rashad White.
But you're still betting on a road dog.
That's the problem.
On a team that can't run too. Like they're not a good running team.
But that's the problem. Like this is like this is the matchup problem, right? Like this is a really good matchup for a running back against the Bills. The Bills are 30th in yards per carry allowed to running backs. They are really not good against running back runs.
But I wrote that up too, and it's kind of misleading for fantasy
because you still need to be in the game script where you can run.
Yeah, and you need volume and pass catching.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's ultimately a concern. I still probably will play some Sean Tucker in DFS just as like a contrarian. This game does stay close, but I do think
you really at his price, you only need him to score.
Exactly. And like and the trends that we have of him, like I could see him getting 14, 15 carries if the Bucs are able to keep it close. But to your point, they're not scoring early. If the Bills score early, then we're in Rashad White game script for the entire time then at that point. And
yeah,
so
if it was all Sean Tucker, I think you could make a stronger case. Like if there was no Rashad White element at all.
Yeah. But you also have to admit that there's an outcome here where the game stays close enough and Tucker does get the carries in the matchup, right?
Yeah, but we're only talking like 12 to 15 maybe at the best.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But this matchup is really bad. And you say they've been a bad running team. Well, how much of that is because Bucky Irving wasn't doing great, obviously, as well.
But the Bills have only allowed 300-yard rushing games all year. The only backs that have torched them for fantasy are like pretty obvious. Yeah. The Devin Achane 2 games, who had 6 catches in both games too. Bijan Robinson and Derrick Henry in the opener.
Yeah, but 2 of those backs in the last 4 games had 200 total yards. So
Bijan Robinson and Devin Achane. Sean Tucker is not doing that.
I'm just saying.
Sean Tucker is not getting 200 total yards in this game.
All right, put it on the board. We'll see.
Another Goldies. I see a Goldies. 200 Sean Tucker yards. You're crazy, dude. You can't use the Bills of like 200 yards, the running backs, and then be Bijan Robinson and Devin Achane and use that to pop up.
I can do whatever I want.
A non-receiving back on the road that's in a 50-50 timeshare at best.
You're coming at me for something I agree with you about. I said I was almost there with Sean Tucker.
I wrote up like I think the outcome you're looking for from the Bucs backfield is similar to like the Saints on the road in Buffalo this year. Like where Kamara had 19 for 72, Kendry Miller had 11 for 65, like something like that. And you hope that your guy gets in the box.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's I agree with you about Sean Tucker. It's funny. We agree about Sean Tucker.
Yeah, you should totally lie. They gave up 200 yards.
There's an outcome, Rich.
If they gave up 200 yards to Jordan Mason, I would have been like, yeah, dude, like go for it.
I'm so angry, man. I'm just saying that there's a randomized outcome. If I were to roll a nat 20, that shot. All right, we're done with this game. Make sure you go and read all of the game previews over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. Again, part of Free Week. Go and check it out. Get access to all of Rich's fantasy content, his DFS picks, which will come later in the week. We post those on Saturday. And then also all of our betting recommendations from Warren Sharp and the rest of the team. So make sure you go and check that out. It's free week. Let's move on to Uncut Gems. I actually don't remember who your Uncut Gem was last week. Mine hit in a big way with Tez Johnson, which I only remember my successes, obviously. But I think we've been doing pretty good with these as of late. Got some Alex Pierce's, got some Tez Johnson, some Darius Slayton doing okay. So not so bad with the Uncut Gems recently. Who do you got this week?
This week I'm going with Emari Demercado.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. And this is with or without Bam Knight, by the way. Yeah. I think even if Bam Knight plays, he's still like RB2 flex worthy, like back end RB2. Like you're playing him over, I think probably either Giants running backs, probably playing him over any Titans running backs, probably over either Bucks running backs. Maybe in half PPR, I would go Sean Tucker. Maybe not. But like I'm probably playing him over like who's down here? David Montgomery, right? Like these guys like down here. So he's just been outright the better player the past 2 weeks in this backfield. And this backfield's pretty nebulous. It's pretty fluid. We saw when Michael Carter was bad, they kind of moved away from him. Bam Knight hasn't really been particularly effective these past 2 weeks. He's been an RB2 in each of the past 2 games, and they're facing this 49ers team you kind of alluded to. Like they're just so bad defensively at every level right now. They're 30th in defensive EPA the past 5 weeks. They just allowed 140 yards and 2 touchdowns to the Rams backfield. They faced over 100 runs now with Mikael Williams off the field, and they're 22nd in yards per carry, 27th in yards allowed before contact. They only have the league's worst success rate against running back runs. And then Demercado also has the pass catching role, no matter how the split shakes out. And the 49ers are 25th in receiving points allowed per game to running back. So you're not going to break the bank, but I think if you're like needy and you need a body, this is a guy you can plug in and he won't kill you. And you hope he is also the guy you just hope gets in the end zone.
Yeah, and I mean he's created big plays recently, which is obviously really good, and you like the matchup. On the receiving thing, I think that's right. I think he is the receiving guy, but that usage in week 9 was really odd between them.
They just flipped them, like they didn't have roles. They just all like alternated drives.
It was odd. It was a very odd kind of situation, but so we'll see what it comes out. But I agree with you about Demercado. I'm actually going to take a different Cardinal. Like this offense is so banged up and we like the matchup. We think they're going to score points. Somebody other than Trey McBride is going to have to do that. And so we're just going to like take some shots. I'm going to take my shot on Greg Dortch. You could, make the case for Wilson, but Wilson is just not. He's not consistently been a target earner. If Zay Jones hadn't tore his Achilles, like this would be a smashed Zay Jones spot. It would not even be a question, but obviously he's out for the season as well. So we'll take a shot on Greg Dortch. Like I said, I expect this game to be higher scoring. I think the Cardinals should have success. I also, like you said, thought about Demercado. Dortch has primarily been a slot guy this season, 64.6% of the snaps. That's the better side of this matchup against the 49ers, are 26th and yards per target allowed to slot receivers. You worry because he only has this year a 32.2% route rate overall, but like they just don't have there's no other option.
Nobody left.
They have to play Greg Dortch. I don't know what the non-PPR upside is. Like he has a 9-yard career, per catch average. So I'm not sure what the upside is. He did find the end zone. What was it, a couple weeks ago on something of, more of like a designed play. So maybe he gets there, but again, he's not the archetype that you would expect to do that. But I do think we could get like 6 catches, 65 yards out of him, and in a PPR league, give you a nice floor. And that's, again, with this segment, we're not shooting for the stars here. These are
you're looking for dudes to play.
You're looking for guys to throw into lineups in a 14-team league, and I think Dortch can fit that bill. But I also could make a case for Wilson. Like we are at that point. Didn't he have his best game of his career, like against San Francisco?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years ago, he had like 2 touchdowns, 110 yards, something like that.
And Dortch, though, like I also like Dortch the most of the non-McBride plays, because anytime like he's been forced to play, he's been good. He's been reliable. I mean, he only has 12 career games where he's played 70% of the offensive snaps, but he's had 4 more catches in all of those games, but 2. And he's had his best games in that span too. So this is a guy that can get open. Like he is a playmaker, good college profile too. Like just been kind of lost in the sauce because of his archetype in the NFL. But I don't think there's like a big discernible difference between Greg Dortch and some other guys that get a little more elevated in like a slot only role.
2 of Wilson's 4 best games of his career, highest yardage total of his career have come against the 49ers. It's 7 for 76 and 2 in 2023 and 5 for 78 in 2024. There you go. What a time to be alive. Are we making the Michael Wilson case? Is that where?
I mean, I didn't even play anyone against 49ers at this point. Like, I feel like they're not considered, like, because a lot of people know Bengals, Cowboys at this point, and I think, Commanders and all that, but like, I think people are overlooking, like, this 49ers defense they have no bodies, man. Like, they have been deplorable against all aspects of offense for like a month straight.
Well, yeah, so it sounds like you played Jacoby Brissett over Matthew Stafford. Good that we finally come to this disagreement at the end. All right, that's it for us. Rich and I are going to go fight off air instead of on air. I'm going to make it play. I'm going to make it play Risk, and we'll see where this goes. We do appreciate you listening to this point. Again, make sure you head over to sharp.football. Check out our free week content for this week. Get access to everything Rich has written. It's all great stuff. Get access to our betting recommendations. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, either your podcast player of choice or over on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And Rich and I will be back to talk with you next week.